Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Now I will tell you about one of the most amazing cities, its history and some interesting facts. Minneapolis, city seat of Hennepin County, southeastern Minnesota, U.S. It lies at the head of navigation on the Mississippi River, near the river's confluence with the Minnesota River. With adjoining St. Paul to the east, it forms the Twin Cities metropolitan area, the largest conurbation in the state and in the U.S. North Central region. Suburban communities include Columbia Heights, North, Brooklyn Park, Northwest, Plymouth and St. Louis Park, West, and Richfield and Bloomington, South. Minneapolis, the state's most populous city, spreads out on a relatively level plain. Within its limits are 22 lakes and lagoons and some 170 parks. The city's riverfront is part of Mississippi National River and Recreation Area, 1988. Lake Minnetonka, 12 miles, 19 kilometers, long and with 110 miles, 177 kilometers, of irregular shoreline, is in the western suburban area. Its outlet, Minnehaha Creek, flows eastward and then drops 53 feet, 16 meters, over an escarpment at Minnehaha Falls. The climate is cool-temperate, with long, cold winters and warm summers. Area City, 58 square miles, 150 square kilometers. History. Sioux and Ojibwe peoples were early inhabitants of the region. The Franciscan missionary Louis Hennepin visited the area in 1680 and named St. Anthony Falls, which later provided power for grinding flour for Fort Snelling, 1819. Now a state park, a military outpost at the confluence of the rivers. The village of St. Anthony developed on the east side of the falls. Settlers had begun occupying U.S. military reservation land on the west side of the river in 1849. In 1855 the government gave these illegal squatters patent rights, and the village of Minneapolis was incorporated in 1856. Its name was derived from the Sioux word men, meaning water, and the Greek polis, for city. St. Anthony was chartered as a city in 1860 and Minneapolis in 1867. The two cities merged as Minneapolis in 1872. The falls were an important factor in the city's early economic growth as a lumber and flour milling center. By 1870 Minneapolis was the country's top producer of flour. The lumber business reached its height in the late 19th century, when logs from the forests of the north jammed the river. As wheat growing in the Northwest increased, flour milling superseded lumbering as the leading industry. The last lumber mill closed in 1919. Railroads, which multiplied connections with Chicago and the South and with the East through Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, were completed in the late 19th century. After World War I, the availability of lower freight charges by means of Great Lakes shipping shifted much of the export flour trade to Buffalo, New York, though Minneapolis remained the headquarters for some large milling companies. In the second half of the 20th century, the city remained one of the nation's primary wheat markets. The Minneapolis Grain Exchange was still one of the largest cash exchange markets in the world. The population of Minneapolis grew steadily from the late 19th to the mid-20th century, reaching a peak of 521,000 in 1950. The number of people subsequently began declining until about 1990, when the city population basically stabilized. At the same time, the population of the Twin Cities metropolitan area increased rapidly, fueled by the movement of thousands from city to suburbs. Throughout the city's history, the great majority of its residents have been of European, notably Scandinavian, ancestry, but that proportion has been decreasing, and the number of African Americans, Asians, and Hispanics has been growing. Blacks now constitute roughly 1/5 of the population. Minneapolis garnered national and international attention on August 1, 2007, when the Interstate 35W bridge over the Mississippi River collapsed unexpectedly during rush hour, causing 13 fatalities and nearly 150 injuries. A year later, the National Transportation Safety Board concluded that the bridge had collapsed because of a design flaw. The incident sparked nationwide concern for the safety of the country's infrastructure. Minneapolis is now a commercial, transportation, distribution, healthcare, financial, and industrial center. Highly diversified manufacturers include metal products, electronics, precision instruments, medical devices, plastics, machinery, computers and computer equipment, chemicals, automotive parts, and agricultural products. Publishing, milling, food processing, graphic arts, insurance, and high-technology industries are also important. The Twin Cities region is a rail and trucking center and includes a major international airport in the southeastern corner of Minneapolis. The Skyway, a system of enclosed, climate-controlled pedestrian walkways located on the second-floor level, connects various points in the downtown area. A 12-mile, 19-kilometer, light rail transit line, connecting downtown Minneapolis with the airport and the Mall of America in suburban Bloomington, opened in 2004. Minneapolis has the main portion of the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, 1851, campus. Other institutions of higher education include Augsburg College, Lutheran, 1869, Dunwoody College of Technology, 1914, Minneapolis College of Art and Design, 1886, a campus of Metropolitan State University, 1971, and North Central University, Pentecostal, 1930. Of historical and cultural interest are the Guthrie Theater, the Minnesota Opera, the Minnesota Orchestra, the American Swedish Institute, the Walker Art Center, the Hennepin History Museum, the Minneapolis Institute of Arts. Several professional sports teams are based in Minneapolis. Target Field is home to Minnesota's baseball, Twins, team, and the state's gridiron football, Vikings, team plays at US Bank Stadium. The state's men's, Timberwolves, and women's, Lynx, professional basketball teams play at the Target Center, and its Major League Soccer team, Minnesota United FC, plays at TCF Bank Stadium. Now 10 historic facts about Minneapolis. Today's Minneapolis would not be what it is without the Minneapolis of yesterday, or maybe a little farther back than yesterday. Our active and diverse city was built from a unique history that few are familiar with. Join us on a stroll through memory lane as we remember some of the best little-known facts about Minneapolis. 1. Native Americans have been living along this part of the Mississippi riverfront for over 12,000 years. Evidence of Native American occupancy has been found throughout Minneapolis, with the oldest being found near the Washington Avenue Bridge and Boom Island Park that date back to roughly 10,000 BCE. In more recent times, the Dakota have considered the area around St. Anthony Falls to be very sacred. Nicollet Island was a peaceful meeting place between the Dakota and Ojibwe, and downstream 8 miles, where the Mississippi meets the Minnesota River, lies Bdote. Dakota believe Bdote is the center of the world and where the Dakota people began. 2. Thanks to a European florist, you're never further than 6 blocks from a park in Minneapolis. Theodore Wirth acquired 3,500 acres of land for the Minneapolis park system during his tenure as superintendent. Wirth started his career as a florist and landscaper in Zurich, London, and Paris before he moved to Connecticut, where he started the first municipal rose garden in the country. Once Wirth was hired as Minneapolis Park Board Superintendent in 1904, he began his promise of putting a park within 6 blocks of every city resident. He secured the land to establish parks such as the Grand Round Scenic Byway, Minnehaha Falls, Lindale Park, 5 golf courses, and the chain of lakes. He also oversaw the creation of the Minneapolis St. Paul Airport. Today, his memory is alive and well at Theodore Wirth Regional Park, where visitors can golf, ski, and fish, or even enjoy a game of disc golf, tennis, and soccer. 3. The first bridge to span the mighty Mississippi River was built right here in Minneapolis. The first Hennepin Avenue Bridge opened back in 1855 as a wooden suspension bridge that connected the west bank of the river to Nicollet Island. While it was not built to last, a bridge just on the other side of St. Anthony Falls was. The Stone Arch Bridge was completed in 1883 as a railroad bridge and is the second oldest continuously used bridge across the Mississippi River. 4. Immigrant communities from across the globe now call Minnesota home. Some of the first immigrants to settle in Minneapolis were French-Canadian, Nordic and Scandinavian Europeans. In more recent years, prominent Latinx, Southeast Asian and Somali communities have developed around the city, bringing with them new ideas and vibrant cultures. In the 90s, a major Latino migration happened around the popular Lake Street area, where more affordable housing provided opportunities to set up a strong Latinx presence. Two Lake Street favorites, Mercado Central and Manny's Tortas, helped transform the area and attracted many more Latinx businesses and members of the community. Originally built as a Sears in the 1920s, the Midtown Global Market is the fruition of the surrounding neighborhood's desire to have a place where the communal and entrepreneurial characteristics of the many immigrant communities in the area could flourish. Minneapolis is also home to a large group of Somali immigrants, particularly in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood, also known as Little Mogadishu. After many Somalis were displaced by the Civil War in the early 90s, the United States issued visas to the refugees. While many at first settled in other parts of the country, they eventually landed in Minnesota because of a strong economy and plenty of job opportunities. 5. Two waterfalls contributed to the city's overflowing natural history alongside its urban development. St. Anthony Falls, also known as Awamni, or Falling Water, in Dakota, is the heart and soul of the city. The waterfall provided energy for dozens of mills along the riverfront and is currently one of the most scenic spots along the river to enjoy a beautiful day. 9,000 years ago, when St. Anthony Falls was eroding its way upstream, the waterfall split when it reached Minnehaha Creek. Most of it continued up the Mississippi to its current location, but a part of it eroded up the creek and became the popular attraction known today as Minnehaha Falls. Minnehaha Regional Park offers amazing hiking trails and breathtaking views of Minnehaha Falls. 6. The Mill City Museum is the most explosive museum in the world. The Washburn Crosby Company operated a flour mill on the site back before it was turned into a museum in 2003, and in 1878, that mill exploded. Flour is very combustible, more so than gunpowder, so all it takes is a little spark or ember and boom. Once they rebuilt, the new mill was up and running through the 1960s when they ceased operations. The vacant mill once again was up in flames in 1991. Instead of demolishing the old mill to put out the fire, the fire department tried their best to save the building, which resulted in the Mill City Museum's signature mill ruin look. The museum took its name from one of the city's nicknames, the Mill City. The first commercial flour mill opened in 1854, and by 1863, 15 mills produced 1.25 million barrels of flour a year. By 1916, Minneapolis produced over 18 million barrels of flour a year. 10. One of the trendiest neighborhoods in the Minneapolis was once a home to many old warehouses. The North Loop neighborhood got its name from a segment of the old streetcar system that once traveled from the Minnesota-Wisconsin border to Lake Minnetonka. The area was very industrial, so in order to service all of the companies and their employees, a loop around the warehouse district was created. In fact, many of these old warehouses are included in the Minneapolis Warehouse Historic District, which is on the National Register of Historic Places. In the 1980s and 90s, the old warehouses were renovated for artists, with some containing over 20 studios. The popularity that the artists brought to the area caught the attention of developers, and the warehouses were refurbished as condominiums and apartments. New developments such as Target Field, home of the Minnesota Twins, and the brand new concert venue, the Fillmore Minneapolis, are also doing their part in making the North Loop neighborhood a very desirable place to live while keeping the history of the area alive. That's all for today. Subscribe to the Magic Cities channel and stay with us. Good luck.